Hey, what's good, everyone? Twisted here with Open Sorcery, and today I want to go ahead and talk about the Buddhist practice of Tonglen, which, in short, is all about cultivating compassion through suffering. Now, when I went ahead and came across Tonglen initially, very shortly after, I got reminded of the song Pain by 3 Days Grace, a band from, the mid 2000s in terms of the height of their prominence. And it's just one of those things that I correlated because I'm very much into music, and honestly just went ahead and helped me get the gist of the concept itself. But Tonglen, as a Buddhist practice and method and philosophy and concept overall, I have some excerpts here from a few web pages that go ahead and pretty much cover the topic in of itself. So I'll go ahead and recite those, and I've just gone ahead and mishmashed them together and done a little bit of editing. But nevertheless, so Tonglen is a Buddhist practice that involves breathing in the suffering of others and breathing out peace and healing. Its purpose is to cultivate compassion. Tong means giving or sending, and Len means receiving or taking. Tonglen is also known as exchanging self with other. Tonglen practice reverses our usual logic of avoiding suffering and seeking pleasure. In Tonglen practice, we visualize taking in the pain of others with every in-breath and sending out whatever will benefit them on the out-breath. In the process, we become liberated from age-old patterns of selfishness. We begin to feel love for both ourselves and others, and begin to take care of ourselves and others. Tonglen awakens our compassion and introduces us to a far bigger view of reality. It introduces us to the unlimited spaciousness of shunyata, emptiness. By doing the practice, we begin to connect with the open dimension of our being. Tonglen can be done for those who are ill, those who are dying or have died, or those who are in pain of any kind. It can be done as a formal meditation practice or right on the spot at any time. If we are out walking and we see someone in pain, we can breathe in that person's pain and send out relief to them. Breathe in for all of us and breathe out for all of us. Use what seems like poison as medicine. So when you go ahead and do Tonglen, in short, right? Pretty much like a phrase that is often said is putting yourself in someone's shoes, essentially. And if those shoes happen to hurt for whatever reason, and you need to go ahead and get some sort of a supports or whatever, or get some sort of a gel inserts and all that. That's you going ahead and putting in gel inserts in someone else's shoes, you can say, in what was probably not the best metaphor. But nevertheless, going ahead and doing that sort of work where you're going ahead and helping to alchemize what someone is going ahead and dealing with, right? Now, going ahead and doing that inner alchemy, right? You're going ahead and taking in the negative and you're cultivating it. You're going ahead and changing it. You're transforming it into positive and then sending it back out to them to where you're not necessarily retaining the negativity. You're just going ahead and transforming it, and you can say on a manner of a spectrum, you're taking it from one end on that spectrum and putting it onto the other end of that spectrum and such. Now, in going ahead and doing so, right, the sort of example that I personally tend to think of often when it comes to conversion of energy in some way, shape, or form is how there's a symbiotic exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between humans and plants. So, in that regard, right, we as humans, we need oxygen to survive. Now, we exhale carbon dioxide, which itself is negative to us. It's something that if we get a over inhalation of, a over intake of, we can go ahead and die. Now, the thing about it is, plants, trees, other sort of greenery, they need carbon dioxide in order to do their processes for their manner of existence in life. So what they go do is they take the carbon dioxide from the airspace, and they go ahead and intake it. They go ahead and through the process of photosynthesis, and it's been a while since they've taken earth or physical science, so pardon me, but they go ahead and, through the process of photosynthesis, go ahead and take the aspects, the parts, the particles of that carbon dioxide and change it into oxygen and such. And thus, in doing so, going ahead and releasing that oxygen outward back into the airspace. And us humans, we need the oxygen, or at least, shall I say, what we call oxygen, because there's other elements involved, but nevertheless, we take what is, primarily oxygen into our systems. And we go ahead and we take the parts that we need, and then we go ahead and release carbon dioxide. And such that cycle continuously goes back and forth, spinning around, making sure that we are going ahead and taking care of one another. And that, in a sense, is kind of how Tonglen goes ahead and operates. Is we're going ahead and making a conscious decision, or even you can say if you're just going ahead and helping someone through a hard time and you're consoling them, you're going ahead and helping to alleviate their pain and alleviate their suffering. Or you can even go ahead and say that if you're going ahead and reflecting, if you're going ahead and meditating, or you're just going through a bad time yourself, you can go ahead and take up a manner of Tonglen practice to alchemize your pain and turn it into more so beneficial things and compassion and all that sort of thing. Or if you've gone ahead and wronged someone, this can go ahead and apply very much so. If you've hurt someone, if you've gone ahead and done actions unto them where they're not pleased with you, they're angry with you, they're hurt, they don't ever want to talk to you again, anything like that, that you go ahead and sit, you reflect, and you also go ahead and can do energy practices if you're energetically sensitive, or breathing exercises to go ahead and work on the pain that you feel that is coming from them and such. And for different breathing exercises, Tonglen, if you study it a bit more in depth, you'll probably be able to find particular methods and means to do so. Pretty much, very simply, I'm going to go ahead and state doing the simple fourfold breath, which has been covered previously on Open Sorcery, and I'll put a link in the description for that on the YouTube posting of this. But yes, using something as simple as the fourfold breath, whether it's covered in that video or in many other sources online or in books and so on. But in utilizing that, or some other breathing methodology, or even if it's just that internal alchemical energy work, you can go ahead and utilize the practice of Tonglen, going ahead and breathing in the suffering of others and breathing out peace and healing to others very effectively. Now, in regards to all that, right? Now, if you are energetically sensitive and you are able to feel the suffering of others, rather noticeably or distinctly or even lightly, then hi, you are an empath. And the thing about it is that people just generally tend to have empathy, right? Or some sort of base level of being able to recognize how someone else feels or anything of that nature. A lot of times we can get caught up in our own bullshit, but, for the most part, there is some level of empathy that can go ahead and be occurring, right? But those who are more so apt to do that more often are empaths. And the thing about being an empath is, when that is your natural state of things, when you're easily able to tap into others' emotions, is you can go ahead and potentially get overwhelmed and go ahead and possibly tap in a bit too much to where you can't necessarily function, and or maybe to individuals that you aren't necessarily particularly targeting or wanting to go ahead and connect to. And with that, you have to go ahead and be cautious about whose energy you're taking in a sense. In that, it is good to go ahead and utilize Tonglen. It is good to go ahead and try to help alleviate others' suffering, whether you are a direct cause of it or it's more so just a consequence of life circumstances or what have you. But once again, be cautious about whose energy you're taking in and recognize that Tonglen, while it is a very good idealistic practice and philosophy, sometimes you may need to be a bit more judicious in exactly how you're utilizing it and not be also open and willy-nilly in how you're going ahead and taking in the negativity of others. Now, when it comes to getting assistance for whether it's you're doing an actual Tonglen practice of a particular recommended method that you may come across in your research, or just generally taking that philosophy and concept and applying it to general breathing exercises or reflecting, meditating, so on, any sort of energy work. There are different entities and beings that you can go ahead and call upon that are likely going to go ahead and be helpful in this endeavor. So the first one that immediately comes to mind for me is the Buddha Avalokiteshvara. And in regards to this particular blurb that I grabbed for a quick summary on Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara in Buddhism, and primarily in Mahayana, Greater Vehicle Buddhism, is the Bodhisattva, or the Buddha to be, of infinite compassion and mercy, possibly the most popular of all figures in Buddhist legend. Well, outside of, say, the quote-unquote Buddha of Siddhartha Gautama, but nevertheless. Avalokiteshvara is beloved throughout the Buddhist world, not only in Mahayana. Now, Avalokiteshvara is a very good choice for whether you're doing something related to the framework of Tonglen or just in general for cultivating compassion and mercy. But the Chinese equivalent of Avalokiteshvara is Guanyin, who tend to be a bit more feminine in their nature of representation. And along with Guanyin, there's also, in reeling it back more so to Buddhism, we have Baisaja Guru, who is formerly, the Buddha of healing and medicine in Mahayana Buddhism, and is commonly referred to as the Medicine Buddha or Medicine Man Buddha. And he is described as a doctor who cures suffering using the medicine of his teachings. So, going ahead and just having one more recommendation on here. This is an archangel that I have gone ahead and spoken about a long time ago in regards to the opener sorcery. And I'll put the link to the previous talk on the YouTube description of this as well, is Archangel Azrael, who the subtitle of that video is Comforter of Grief. So in this sort of sense, right, calling on Azrael to go ahead and preside over you doing Tonglen practice or just cultivating compassion through suffering or alleviating the suffering of others and having them assist you if you feel that the angelic route is the one to go, as opposed to, say, a deity or a Buddha of some sort. Now, in having listed Avalokiteshvara, Guanyin, Baisaja Guru, and Azrael, I'm going to go ahead and say that, calling on any of them will be helpful, but truly, generally speaking, you are the one doing the work itself. You are the one going ahead and taking in that suffering, and you're putting out the healing into the world, into the atmosphere. And the thing about it is, we've been talking about it quite a bit on an individual level, but this is something that also applies to a larger scale, a more so, you can say, regional scale or national scale, international, global scale, a, solar system scale, universal, all of that, just any level of the cosmic or the macrocosmic, you can say. And in that sort of sense, there is a particular sort of concept, a particular sort of idea when it comes to the works of Eckhart Tolle about pain bodies, and that being big clumps of pain, pretty much big collections of negativity that exist within the collective unconscious of humanity itself. And you can potentially go ahead and do your part to help alleviate and process and go ahead and help with the healing of that. And that is something I've gone ahead and discussed before in regards to pain bodies, and I can put another link in the YouTube posting of that video. But yes, so one thing I want to go ahead and kind of bring up and mention to close things out is that this is all for the sake of healing. Whether it's healing for yourself, healing for others, healing for the great, collective, and all that sort of stuff, right? Represented by the star and tarot, we want to go ahead and help heal. We want to go ahead and help do good by others and for the whole of humanity and other living beings and so on. And the last thing I do want to mention is I came across a poem by the writer Emily Dickinson that, just based on timeliness, seems rather appropriate to go ahead and share as a closing point right here. So, the poem is very brief, and it's called If I Can Stop One Heart from Breaking. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one lonely person into happiness again, I shall not live in vain. So yes, once more, Tonglen, cultivating compassion through suffering. And whether it's your own cultivation of compassion through your own suffering, or cultivating compassion and mercy through another suffering, or just the world at large, go ahead and take some time to reflect, to be able to give it the time that it deserves, sit with it, and even if it's not necessarily an active practice like Tonglen, the universe has a way of letting pain be our greatest teacher at times, and learning actual compassion and mercy and humility and graciousness through said lessons. So yes, this has been Twisted with Open Sorcery, and stay frosty, Neguses. Peace.